Kalkadosh Boker Or. Masechet Menahot Daf Yomi Daf Nun Aleph Amud Aleph 51a1. We're just going to start again on 50b, the last line where it says Amar Abaya. Abaya comes and he says, right, Abaya Amar. We're talking about another Mekor where it says Amar Kar, the pasuk says Solet Mincha Tamid. What are we learning from there? Sharehi Keminchat Tamidin. Ah, well, you already behind. I don't know how many people. Open up. So he says the mincha, which is coming with the korban tamid, right, is going to be pushing off Shabbat. Meaning, you bring a korban, right, of korban tamid, you bring it even on Shabbat. It's going to be mechalel Shabbat in order to bring it, but that's what you're doing, right? Nun Aleph Amud Aleph 51a again. Rava Amar Rava comes and he says another pasuk. Al machavat melamed sheteuna kli. So it needs a kli sharet in order for it to come and to bake it. So he says, "V'i afele metmol ifsile belina." Now, if you're going to bake it from the previous day, it's going to be pasul belina. So Tanya kavete de Rava. So they learned in accordance to Rava. He comes and he says, "Al machavat." What does it mean now? Al machavat melamed sheteuna kli bashemen. So it's going to come and it's going to require a kli, right, in the shemen. Why? Why? He says, "Bashemen teaseh leosif la shemen." Then yodea kama, and I don't know how much. So he says, Hadeni dan, right? So he comes and he says, I'm going to judge where it says kan shemen. Nemar lalam mincha nesachim shemen. Ma lehalan, just like over there, it's going to be shloshet lugin lisaron. So to here, it's going to be shloshet lugin, right? Lisaron. Oh, klach lederech zo. Why don't we go the other way around? Ne'emar kan shemen. It says over there shemen, and then it says that by the minchad nedava shemen. Ma lehalan log echad. Just like over there, it's going to be one log. So to here, it's going to be one log. So he says, mired lemi domeh. Who's the more compared? Is the menachot more compared to the nesachim, or to minchat nedava? Meaning, you have a minchat chavitin. Is the minchat chavitin more compared to a minchat nesachim or minchat nedava? Minchat nesachim is the obligation. The minchat nedava is a present. Okay, so what's it more compared to? So it says tanin tavshat mitavshat, right? Tadid. Tavshat is tav for tadid, right? Which tadid is going to be doche Shabbat, and it's doche tumah. Ve'en danin, we're not going to judge the tavshat from misheno tavshat, right? From not tavshat. So which means the minchat nedava is not tadid, and it's also, since it's not a chovah, so therefore it's not going to be pushing off Shabbat or tumah, right? Because only something which is kavua zman doche et Shabbat v'doche tumah. Hevantem? One more time. Kavua zman. If it's got a fixed time, it pushes off Shabbat and it pushes off the tum'ah. If it doesn't have a fixed time, why do you have to do it today on Shabbat? Do it Sunday. Well, what are you going to do on Shabbat? There's no dochet Shabbat. Tadid, if it's going to be constant and there's a fixed time, so you have to do it. If it's not tadid, why do you have to do it now? Do it another time. Okay? And then he says, O klach l'derech, go the other way. Yagel miagel. Right? The minchat chavitin is a korban yachid. And it's biglal atzma. Right? And it needs levona. So you got yachid, glal atzma, levona. That's yagel. So he says ve'en danin yagel mishe'eno yagel. Meaning, at the end of the day, the minchat chavitin is a kohen gadol. It's not a public one. So even though it's tadid, but it's a private guy. It's a kohen gadol. Number two, right? It's brought by itself. It doesn't come with any korban. Meaning this comes by itself. Number three, right? What happens? It has frankincense, the levuna. So therefore, all these three things is going to be the same, right, as a minchat nedava. Minchat nedava is a present. A present comes by itself, and you're bringing the present. It's not brought with anything else, and it needs levuna. So therefore, do I compare the tavshat mi tavshat or yagel mi yagel? Okay, that's just the acronym of the common characteristics, the parallels between the two of them together. So the Gemara says, Rabbi Yishmael beno shel Rabbi Yochanan ben Ruka omer, solet minchat tamid sharei minchat tamidin. Ma minchat tamidin shlosh lugin lisaron. So to hear this shlosh lugin lisaron, okay, which means since we can't answer from a svara, so therefore, right, we're going to come and we're going to say, yeah, we're going to say that what? That it has to be, right, since it says solat minchat tamid, it has to be just like the minchat tamidin is going to be 3 lugin for Yisaron, so to here has to be 3 lugin for an Yisaron. Rabbi Shimon says, riba kam riba, right? He says riba kan shemen v'riba b'minchat kvasim shemen. Just like over there, it's going to be 3 lugin shemen of Yisaron, so to here it's going to be 3 lugin shemen for an Yisaron. So says the Gemara, go the other way around. We added shemen over here, and we added by parim ve'elim also shemen. Just like over there, it's two lugin, so to here it's two lugin. Basically, we have a question. How much shemen do you need for this mincha chavitin? So one opinion said three. Why? We compared it to the minchat kivasim, right? That just like over there it's three. So to here, also it's going to need three. The other one comes, so minchat chavitin three, just like minchat nesachim three. The other one he's coming and saying, no, we're talking about the minchat nesachim and needs the shem, and he says over there it's going to be two lugin for one isaron, right? By the minchat parim velim. So to here it should only be two. It's not going to be more than two, not three. It should only be two. So he says, Nireh mi domeh, who's the more compared to? So he comes and he says like this. He says, right, Danin, mincha ba isaron, mincha ba beisaron. Ven danin, mincha ba beisaron, mincha ba shnayim u'shosha isronim. So he comes and he says, we don't need it. He comes and he says, we're going to judge something that comes with isaron, right, the mincha that's coming with the isaron for the mincha which is coming with the isaron. I mean, each one is one minchat, one isaron of a solet, and we're not going to judge an isaron from a mincha which comes from two isronim. Meaning, right, how much you have an amount of lugin. Lugin is the liquid volume. It's like milliliters of nowadays, right? Then you have an isaron. Isaron is the solid volume. It's a grams. Nowadays they use grams or kilograms, whatever it is that they use, right? So therefore, you have the flour. How much flour do you have? And then you have how much oil do you have? So the first opinion wanted to say that you bring 3 logs of oil. And the second opinion says, no, you only bring 2 logs of oil. So now the question is, how much oil do you actually bring? So he says, you know what? Why don't I just come and say that it all depends on how much of the flour do you bring? So I prefer, if you're going to compare the flour that's 1 isaron to here that is only going to be 1 isaron. So he says, Agufa Kasha, that in itself is a question. Amarta, you told me Bashemen that you have to be Mosif Lashemen, and then you told me it says here Shemen, and it says Minchanid Vashemen. So what's going on? So Amar Abaye says, Man Tana Bashemen is Leosif. Who's the one that says you have to add by the oil? It's Rabbi Shimon, right? Uvedina Man Kamadar, and who's the one that says you have to learn from Minchanid Dava? Rabbi Ishmael, that he says you have to learn it from a Hekesh. So therefore he comes and he says, since he didn't learn it, he couldn't learn from the Minchat Nesachim, we needed a pasuk, right? That's why he's learning it this way. So Ravuna Bered Vishua Amar, Kula Rabbi Shimon, the entire thing is Vishua Amar Rosh Amar Rosh Kahi, V'hachi Kamar. This is what it means to say. He says Bashemen. When it says Bashemen, Leosif La Shemen, we're adding Shemen more than a log. So he says, but if you're going to tell me it's to put Shemen at all, you don't need it because it already says Al Machavat. When you tell me that you're frying it in a pan, I already know that you have to have oil. You don't have to tell me that there's oil. If you're telling me you're baking it, okay, so you bake it without oil. But if you're telling me you're frying it, the second you tell me al machavat is a frying pan, I know there's oil. So you don't have to tell me you have to add oil. The question though is how much of the oil. So he says, and right, or maybe it's only likwa shemen. So look at the right, the look at the Rahman, but if it wouldn't have been written shemen, I would have thought to say it's like a minchat choteh, hadatami nami like likwa lo shemen, tetimidina. So I'm going to say that dan dina lo atielen, then we wouldn't bring it. Vatzuchu kra, and then I needed the pasuk solom minchat tamid, kemesavim shemel minte. What does it mean? You remember we brought down that by a minchat choteh, there's no oil. Why is there no oil by minchat choteh? We didn't want the person that sins that he should have a nice korban. So purposely didn't have oil, so it was like a very simple korban. It wasn't even a good korban. Why? Because kilu what? Because you sinned. Imagine a guy comes, he sins. Right? He doesn't come to shiur for I don't know how many days. Right? He lost I don't know how many dapim and how many. He already sinned. Right? You think now we're going to come? We're going to make it very, very enjoying and everything. We're going to come. We're going to make him enjoy. And then he goes, no, you have to enjoy. You have to pat him on the back. The fact that he sinned. The guy sins. He has to do al-hayt, right? He has to do vidui, right? And after doing vidui, that's yeah, he's gonna come and he's gonna, there's no fluff in it. No, he has to do teshuvah. Yeah, not just like that. So he comes and he says this. Rabba comes and he says, right? Exactly, with 2 hands on both sides. Yeah, so he says, Rabba comes and he says, Kula Rabbi Shimon. The entire thing is Rabbi Shimon. So he says, Ilu lo ne'emar, if it wouldn't have been written, right? Vehachi kamar, this is what it means to say, right? Bashemen, no, see bashemen, you have to add a little bit of oil. He says, De'ilik wala shemen, if you're going to tell me that you needed to put oil, lo tzarich, I already really know, but it says al machavat, right? K'machavat damya. Ve'ad shelo yomar bashemen, yesh li v'dan dina lo atilena. You can't judge it from the dina, because again, since we had the safek, do we learn it from tavshat or yagel? You remember that thing? Meaning we had a doubt, what are you comparing it to? So he says, and we couldn't learn it from there. So therefore, we need the pasuk of Shemen Hadar Amar. Therefore, it says Kimincha Parim Ve'elim in order to come and tell you that you need 3 login. The Hadar Danin, and then we're going to judge, right? The what? Nun Aleph Amubet 51b Mincha Ba Isaron. That we're learning it from the Isaron. Okay, fine. Mishnah, a new subject. Yeah, so that way you could start fresh. Yeah, Mincha Mishnah. Yeah, so he comes and he says like this. Okay. Lo minu kohen acher tachtav. If they did not right away, meaning the Kohen Gadol dies, and they still didn't appoint another Kohen Gadol, right? So he says, Mishel mi hayta kreva. אפילו עד שהם עשו את זה, הם לא עשו את זה. הם לא שמו את הסגן. תמיד חייב להיות סגן, אבל לא תמיד הסגן הוא יהיה הכהן גדול. בינתיים הוא הכהן גדול, אבל לא תמיד הוא... לא, בינתיים הוא סגן. לא, הרבה פעמים, יש לו הרבה דברים שהוא עושה עד שהשני מת.
סגן שהוא עושה יותר מכהן אידיוט או מכהן...
לא, ודאי, יש הרבה דברים שהוא עושה יותר. גם בכיפור, אם אתה זוכר, היה ראש ביתיו והסגן מימינו וראש ביתיו. Yeah, so the sgan does it, 100%. But not always is a mechayev that deputy will become the main one. It's like a successor, meaning during right now, because right now he's the sgan, and many times he will represent it. Exactly, during the time that he's alive. But the second that he dies, let's say all of a sudden, they appoint the sgan today. 20 years later, there's somebody that's more appropriate to be Kohen Gadol. So he's going to become the Kohen Gadol, right? Not the sgan. The sgan during that time until that Kohen Gadol, the first Kohen Gadol passes away, or he could also pass away. No, so usually they would not switch a sgan in the middle. They would not switch a sgan in the middle. It's like a Kohen Gadol. Do they switch a Kohen Gadol in the middle? No.
So the sgan is just...
You have a Kohen Gadol. He's a Mr. A, right? And at the time he was the most appropriate. 10 years later, there's somebody much greater than him. They're going to tell him, bye-bye. You're not Kohen Gadol anymore? Ad Shumet. Or if there's a psul, he became, defective, whatever, something like that. But if not, Ad Shumet. So they're not going to come and pull him down. So therefore, but then when they're, okay, so he's the next one. Well, we know that, understand? Yeah?
So the sgan is just if they are the one...
So one more time. So basically, they didn't prepare another Kohen Gadol. So Rabbi Shimon comes and he says, Mishel Tzibur. It's going to come from the Tzibur. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Mishel Yorshin. It comes from the Yorshim of the Kohen that died. Right? Ushlemai takreva. But he used to bring the entire thing. Okay? So he says the Gemara. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to the Braita. Kohen Gadol shemet. When you have a Kohen Gadol that died, velo minu acher tachtav, and they didn't appoint another one instead of him. Minayin shetem menachato kreva mishel Yoshim. How do you know that it comes from the Yorshim, from the inheritors? Tamul Omar v'Kohen Mashiach tachtav mibanav yaseh ota. He's going to do it from the children. Yachol yakrivin achatzina. I would have thought he's only going to bring half. Tamul Omar ota kula velo chetzia. Tiver Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Shimon Omer chol kola mishel olam. Kalil toktar. Meaning that the entire thing gets consumed. And over here, when it comes and it says chokolam, it means that it comes from the money of the tzibur, which is trumat alishka. So says the Gemara, that's what he needed for. I thought we needed it for something else. But it says, Ze korban Aaron uvanav asher yakrivu Hashem yom yimeshach oto. Yachol yihu Aaron uvanav makrivin korban echad. I would have thought that they're going to bring one korban. Tamul omar asher yakrivu Hashem. Well, what does that mean? Aharon bifnei atzmo, ubanav bifnei atzmo. Each one is bifnei atzmo. Banav, elu kohanim edyotot. אתה אומר, do you say that they're going to be כהנים אדיוטות, או אין על הכהנים גדולים, or going to be כהנים גדולים? אז כשהוא אומר, when it says, הכהן המשיח תחתיו מבניו, כהן גדול, right, אמור, it's already brought down the כהן גדול. המאני מקיים בניו, so what am I going to מקיים בניו? Right, אלו כהנים אדיוטות. These are going to be כהנים אדיוטות. So says the Gemara, אם כן, so לכתוב קרא, the pasuk should have said, הכהן המשיח תחתיו בניו יעשה. What does it mean, מבניו יעשה? So Shmamina Tart is coming to teach you two different things. Number one, Mincha Kohen Gadol, that he dies, it comes from the Yorshim, from the inheritors. And the Mincha Kohen Gadol is going to be also for generations, for everybody. For all generations are going to bring it. Rabbi Shimon Hayotah, what does he do with the word Otah? He says, he needs it for the Kohen Gadol that dies. They appointed another Kohen Gadol that he's not going to bring the Chetzi Saron, right? And not a Chetzi Saron of the Rishon, but he has to bring a full one. You remember we said? Typically, so he says he doesn't make a derasha from the vav of the umma chatzita. For Rabbi Yehuda, and according to Rabbi Yehuda, chok olam, what does he do? He says chukah leolam te, right? It should be from the chukah leolam. Kalil Toktar Lamali. What do I need it? You need it for this. Eli Ela Eliona, that's only going to be the first one, right? Which was the one written above. Bekalil Toktar Tachtona, the one that's later on. How do I belote achel minai? How do you know that you shouldn't eat it? So he says, Liten Amur Bezeh Bezeh, meaning whatever's written by one, I'm going to apply it to the other one. And whatever's written by the other one, I'm going to apply it to this one. Tamul Lumar Kalil, it's Gzrat Shava. It says Kalil Toktar, which means the entire thing has to be burnt. And it says Kalil Tiel Lo Techel, you're not allowed to eat it. Just like over here, it's Kalil Toktar, so too over there, it's going to be Kalil Toktar. Malahalan, just like over there, it's a Lo Ta'aseh, it's a negative commandment if you eat it. So too over here, it's going to be a negative commandment if you eat it. It's a Lo Ta'aseh im ata ochel ota. Yeah, Shamata, ta ochel ota. Okay? Savar Rabbi Shimon, says Rabbi Shimon, right? Mishel Tzibur, Midoraita. He says, if a Kohen Gadol is going to that dies and it's going to bring broth from the Tzibur, right? That's from the Doraita. Vatran Rabbi Shimon, Shiva Dvarim itkinu bedin. There were 7 institutions that Betin came and they instituted to do with the korbanot. Veze echamen. This is one of them. What does that mean? Imagine you have a goy that sends a korban olah from Medinat Hayam. So imagine he's here in America. He sends a korban olah. Yeah, exactly. Olah only. Shalach ima nesachim. If he sends the nesachim, kreva meshelo. It's going to be brought from him. If not, krevim shel tzibur. It's going to be brought from the tzibur. V'chein ger shemet. Similar applies the ger, right? V'niach zvachim. And he left over korbanot. If they have wine, so it's going to come from that. Krevim shelo. If not, it's going to be from the tzibur. V'tnai betin hu. It's tnai betin. Kohen gadol that dies and he doesn't appoint another kohen gadol, that minchato is going to be brought from shel tzibur. So you see from here, this is one of the takana chachamim. Samar Rabbi Yavu says Rabbi Yavu shne takanot avu. There were actually 2 takanot, right? Midoraita, it comes from the tzibur. But Kevin the Chazul, once they saw that it was lishkat, it was very, very, they didn't have enough money. So tiknu the legabe Yerushim. So then they went and they said, take it from the Yerushim. The Kevin the Chazul kapashuba. So then they saw that the Yerushim didn't want to do it. They didn't want to bring it. So ukma doraita. Then they put it back to the doraita, which means it comes back from the tzibur. Right? The same halacha was that they applied to the paraduma. Shelu mualim be'afra. They cannot do mi'ilah on the effort of the paraduma. So says the Gemara, that's doraita. Titania was learned on a braita. Chatat hu, right? Or it says he, even though it's written hu. Melamed shemualim, but there's mi'ilah, right? He ba mualin. What does that mean? When it says he, it says the para atzma mualin. Be'efra mualin. You're gonna be. You could do mi'ilah in the para, but not in the effort of the paraduma. Okay, then the Gemara is going to answer that there were 2 takanot, right? As we're already going to continue with Hashem.